there's any issues. But welcome everybody. We seem to have 15 of you at the moment, but maybe we'll get some more as the show goes on. My name is Levy Rozman. Probably saw from the email I'm the COO, joined by Keith. And well, I think we'll jump right into it. We've got our agenda today. We're hoping to only take up about half an hour of your time, but we're going to leave a lot of time at the end for question and answer because I think more than half of our signups today are juniors, sophomores, underclassmen. We have a few seniors, but want to be able to answer all your questions. So our agenda, we're going to introduce what Bentham is, what we're all about. Then we're going to talk about the goods, the Ivy League. Probably Keith and I are going to role play me being an underclassman, but skeptical about what admissions consulting is all about. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. So you're going to hear Keith talk a lot in the second part. Then we're going to talk about how to be a good student with a balanced portfolio and talk about our successes, statistics, and things like that. So first things first, we are an admissions consulting company. What does that mean? If you come to us as an underclassman, we help you build a portfolio that gets you ready for college, applying to college and getting into the college of your dreams. We help you build your profile, help you with all your essays, and as we'll get into the case studies later, we shape and position and strategize you as a as a student based on certain schools and things of that nature. But maybe you can touch on what, if someone comes to us as a senior, what's kind of the difference with what we do?
Well, for the most part, when students come to us as seniors, the cake is pretty much baked. The things we offer would be things like positioning, like what major should you select?
That's a good one, yeah.
Essentially, because that in itself is important. It'll tell you once you have your positioning. You know what major you're going to select, how to write your essays, what activities you should put on the common application, in what order, what you should leave off, who to ask for recommendations. These are all the things that we would help with seniors, helping them stand out and seem apart from the crowd.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it, because most of the people who signed up, what you're watching right now, you're probably an underclassman, and if you come to us as a freshman, sophomore, or junior, we implement a strategy called contrarian positioning, and basically getting into the top schools nowadays, as you'll see in the next few slides, it's a brutal process. You could be the perfect applicant, and we don't want it to come down to a coin flip. We want to have that advantage. We want you to stand out. So the key point that we implement for contrarian positioning is applying to the undersubscribed majors. You'll see specific examples of this in the future when we talk about our case studies, what exactly that means. But when you come to us as a junior or a sophomore, we can actually build a narrative around contrarian positioning. I think that's what you were saying, right. Yeah. Because otherwise it's just us trying to work with what we already have, and we do succeed.
Yeah.
As we will show you, we do succeed, but it's better obviously to have a full narrative there. More than anything else, college is a really brutal process. I'm closer to the admissions process. I'm younger than you, Keith. So I remember what this is all about. And when you work with us, the whole point of signing up with an admissions consulting company is we make your process much easier. We help you build a school list. We help you with any financial aid consulting or deadlines that you need. If you're an artist and you want to submit a portfolio, there might be certain deadlines for certain schools and certain applications for certain schools. We streamline all of that. We try to take the worry and concerns out of your hands because it can be very stressful, during application season and definitely before it. So, well, this is the meat of the presentation, the Ivy League. And again, if at any point anybody has any questions, feel free to just write it in the chat. We will get to it during the Q&A, but obviously the Ivy League is 8 schools. Mm-hmm. Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, UPenn, Princeton, Yale. We like to break it down into HIPs.
Right. So the most selective group of schools is an acronym called HIPs. It's Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford. Mm-hmm. Now, Stanford isn't in the Ivy League. It's a West Coast school. It's in California, and it's a lot newer than these 8 schools. But those 4 schools, along with MIT and Caltech, make up what we call the Tier 1. They're the most difficult schools to get into, and they are an extreme reach for almost all students.
And I think the whole reason we're even having this presentation is because everybody has a thing that they think about these schools.
Right.
It's like a lore, aura. You read things, you hear things, but when you work with experts, we're going to tell you very different things. So get ready. So I think one of the most important things to start out with in terms of myths and misconceptions. This was actually news to me when I got in this industry. U.S. News and World Report is misleading. Tell them about that.
Well, every parent, that before they come to a consulting firm like us, they're going to do their own research.
Right.
And part of one of the big things that they'll do is they will pick up a copy of, oftentimes a paper copy of the U.S. News and World Report rankings. And they'll say, what's the number 1 school? What's the best school for computer science? What grades and test scores do I need to get in? And the one of the biggest myths and misconceptions that people that I've seen over and over and over again is parents will understand their own school list. They will look at the averages in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. They'll say, okay, my child is higher than this.
Yeah.
I don't need a consultant.
Yep.
Yeah. We're good. We're going to be fine because
we'll just edit our essays.
Yeah,
and
we'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's just I'll help with that, and it'll be we're gonna have our student go study go pre-med, and he's gonna be a doctor.
Yeah.
From Princeton.
Yeah, and then they get rejected from the early decision, and they're like, what?
Wait a minute, something happened. Yeah, they know they think the early decision helps. It's a massive boost, and I get early decision so everyone knows is due for most schools are in and around November 1st.
Yeah,
we get our decisions approximately the second week of December.
So you got like 2 weeks before 95% of your applications are due.
RD is usually regular decision pool is usually in around January 1st.
Right.
So if you get good news on your ED,
good.
We're done. We're bound. We're fine.
You're literally contractually obligated.
Yeah.
If you get into an early decision program, you have to go there.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, obviously, if you work with an admissions consulting company and you get into your early decision school, but you have some work you've paid beyond that, that's generally the best way to go because there is no guarantee. If an admissions consulting company is guaranteeing you admissions, you should probably stay away from them because there's most likely something illegal going on.
By the way, almost all admissions consulting, we certainly do, is that we don't assume the best once the November 1st deadline hits. So during November and December, you will be finishing up your regular decision pool. And if you get a good news, then it'll just be like a test or homework project you didn't turn in. Right.
Makes sense. And this is a very important statistic. All the stats that you read on U.S. News and World Report, they are skewed.
Yeah,
you had mentioned that, and
they don't apply to you because
unless you're one of these 4 things.
Right. If you're a legacy, underrepresented minority, recruited athlete, if you're first generation, that helps, or if you're a development case. Those are the things that skew the numbers downward.
Now, I know someone wrote a chat question. We will kind of answer everybody all together, but I will just tie in that question in particular to the next point about the Ivy League misconceptions. The student, that's a very important thing. There's a couple of very, very specific things here that might surprise you. It is better to be a student that focuses on betterment of society, what they're actually going to contribute to their community, either local, abroad. If you just want to be a doctor or you just want to be whatever it might be, any profession, you can't just say that. That's not good enough. And I think another thing, I think a lot of parents don't know about this, but you need to specialize. You need to have 2 or 3 things that you do extremely well. You can't be the captain of debate, involved with Lego robotics, play 2 sports, play an instrument, volunteer, because then what you're saying is, I'm trying to be a college applicant. You're not trying to be a person who is going to actually take any of these things. the last thing a college wants to see is you're going to get in, especially in the Ivy League, is you're going to get in, drop 90% of what it was that you were doing, and then become a Wall Street banker or whatever it is. They want to know that there's dedication. And I think the last thing here is, if you can afford an Ivy League school for 4 years, that doesn't have as much value anymore, right? That is super important to note. Some of you watching right now might be fortunate enough that you can, but it's not a plus. Showing that does not actually, it used to be, for sure. From the school side, I think you can definitely talk about this. Yeah. The ranking system of different schools. And this is a bit of a paywall, right? This is one of the things that we have backed by our data, but every school has a bit of a different thing that they stress, that they like. For instance,
for example, people that say Dartmouth, they want to see in your essays communicate things like you love the outdoors.
Right.
Cold doesn't bother you because Hanover, New Hampshire is, take it from someone who knows, is cold. Princeton is looking for people with interesting political perspectives. Harvard is looking for leaders. The reason that it is so hard for, even for the elite students that are perfect, that have research, intellectual vitality, they check all the boxes.
Right.
They can't get into all the schools because all the schools are elite and they are looking for something else. Brown is looking for something that for students that would thrive in with academic freedom. Columbia, equally competitive to get into, is looking for the opposite. People who have a history of doing well within academic structure. These are all very different. So they all are difficult to get into in their own ways, but they all see each other in very different ways.
There's no one size fits all.
No,
you can't just be, like I said.
And like for MIT and Caltech, they're looking for like Siemens or Intel semi-award finalists.
Yeah.
They cannot, and to have that, and to have the leadership that Harvard is looking for, and the political perspectives that Princeton is looking for, and to do
it's a lot of
really hard, which is why it's so few. There are so few what we call unicorns, where it's a student who gets in everywhere.
Yeah.
You would need for that underrepresented minority, incredibly narrative, perfect grades. And to put a finer point on what you were talking about before, we call it being angular.
Yeah, angular.
Instead of being a jack of all trades, master of none, schools want you to be good at one thing.
Right.
Like a concert pianist. A pianist is fine, but someone who's good enough to say solo at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Or a master level chess player, like this one over here. Or like these different things that these schools are looking for.
Right.
You want to handle the question, Pat? Or?
No. We'll. I know we had the question about being a freshman in high school. Is it too early? I think we'll definitely get to it. But we should we should for sure talk about what a balanced applicant looks like. We've been talking a lot about what the schools value, but the next portion of what we should discuss is, well, you're sitting there at home, you're like, what should I do? I'm a freshman, right?
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely not too early. In fact, the earlier the better. Not necessarily, again, this isn't a sales pitch necessarily. It's just the point is that you have to start thinking about college, whether you work with someone like us or not. You have to start building a narrative now. The earlier the better. It's great. From the academic performance side, you got to have good grades, and not good. They got to be great, especially for the Ivy League. If they're not, we do have ways of trying to mitigate that, but do your homework. Just study for your tests. I mean,
it's assumed. Perfect grades, near perfect test scores are assumed.
Yeah.
No more than 1 or 2 Bs.
And like I said, with extracurriculars, angular, less is more. Hobby's good, but you want to specialize, and there needs to be relevance. There needs to be a clear-cut story, which we help with as well. I mean, if we help you build that story of interest, of anything. It's just like any adult who's watching right now. Maybe if you're a parent, your resume has to be cohesive.
Right.
I didn't do this. Hire me. It has to flow. Nonprofit or community work, we help you with that. We help with research. And probably the most important thing, this is just something you're not going to probably find intellectual vitality on any guide of Ivy Leagues. This is our key point, just like contrarian positioning is, you got to have independent research. You have to do things beyond the classroom, whether it's statistical, significant studies of anything, medical, working with professors in a subject of interest. We'll talk about that in our case studies, or a patent. But a patent is such a specialized, unique thing that we've pushed that it's almost losing its appeal.
It is because a lot of admissions officers found out that the parents were filing the patents.
Right.
So it's very hard to demonstrate that the student was doing it.
Right. Paid summer programs.
Yes.
Not as good. I know you get brochures for that. You might say I can go. My kid can go study at Brown for a week or two. I'm giving some money to the school. Maybe no. Honestly, no. If you've gotten a brochure for that, you could do it, but it would be so much more useful to spend a couple of weeks working with a local college professor, or really cultivating an interest in whatever it might be that your son or daughter is interested in.
We'll recommend getting a job, literally an actual job as a barista or working at McDonald's. Yeah. It doesn't matter. We can talk a little bit about that on the other side of the paywall, but we're building a narrative, a harmonious narrative, that the intellectual vitality is someone who wants to go to college for the love of learning. This feeds into the first point that we had on the previous slide, which is like, they don't want students that want to be bankers, that want to get paid. That even if that's the reality, we have to present the student as someone who's going to be a social justice warrior, not a banker, not a private equity, guy. And that is far more compelling a narrative. You also have to understand that in the end, this is a chess game, and our opponent is the admissions officer.
Right. Who
is the admissions officer? The most in most cases for non-engineering majors, it is almost certainly someone who has a degree, an undergraduate degree in writing.
Yep. Who
doesn't make a lot of money, and they don't want to hear about someone who comes from a privileged background, who wants to be a banker, who wants to raise a $1 billion hedge fund, who wants to be a doctor. They see so many of these.
Yeah.
But someone who a love of learning wants to be a teacher, someone who wants a better society, that resonates a lot better. And on these when these decisions are, when everyone has perfect grades, if you assume that everyone has perfect grades, you have to distinguish yourself. These are some of the things that we're gonna have you do. Is to distinguish yourself on the intellectual vitality. Show, no, I don't just say I want to be a math teacher. I actually worked with the math teacher for 2 years, and this was our paper, and it was published, and this is what we found. And when I go to your school, I want to work with this professor on this subject.
Yeah,
and it'll show demonstrated interest. It'll show the intellectual level of learning, and it will make you stand out. There's always a way to stand out. There is. I've seen well over 1,000 different applicants, candidates. Some that didn't even sign up with us, but some that worked with our sister company, that we were able to make them look different than the people from their peer group.
Yeah.
And this is intellectual vitality is one of the distinguishing ways to do that.
That's a fantastic summarization. Yeah, it's just food for thought. If you're sitting there at home, you have a sophomore son that's interested in X, Y, and Z, but hasn't really cultivated that sort of an interest, this is, working with us will get you there. Yeah. And if not, this is just, something to think about. Our last point here, we obviously we would not be advocating for ourselves if we weren't happy with our work, but we get students into schools at 3 to 4 times various acceptance rates. I mean, we're most proud of Cornell, where 42% of our students got in last year. Stanford, obviously very tough, but we got 17% in. And just a couple of case studies for you. I mean, they're all bullet points. We try to diversify, the location, the students, and their interests. But just going straight down, Southeast Asian male comes with some bad grades. Not bad, but for Ivies, not the best. And pre-med was the original route. We found an interest within his portfolio for anthropology, created a successful narrative, got into Stanford. Caucasian male, New Jersey, New York, tri-state area, computer science, philosophy positioning, research position in a local school within the interest, accepted early decision into Cornell. And the case study number 3, this one, not a lot of angling of positioning or anything like that, but Engineering interest. Okay, so let's pick something. Don't just say you want to be an engineer. What does that mean? Show an interest in environmental engineering, get you a local lab apprenticeship, accepted into Caltech and 6 of the 8 Ivy League schools. Arguably the most successful.
Yeah, that case 3 is actually fascinating because it goes to show that some parents, they come to me and they say, Keith, I mean, my student's a mathematician. I am a East Asian student. I check all the stereotypes. How are you going to make me contrarian? I don't understand.
Yep.
How do we I'm an engineer.
Yep.
All I've done is engineering since I was 6th grade. I can't be a philosophy major now.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? It's gonna look false on the app. It's not gonna resonate. In those cases, that's fine. What we'll do is we'll like in this case study 3, we took the female student. We said, okay, within environmental engineering, within engineering, there are undersubscribed majors even within the sub major.
Yeah.
And the greatest the least subscribed major for East and South Asian students is environmental engineering, and that is why, that's why we had her choose environmental engineering, because that positioning was contrarian within the greater schema of engineering. We had another Asian student just last season that just completed on January 1st. He said, we're mathematicians. My son is a mathematician. I don't know what to do. I cannot be contrarian. What do I do? So, okay. We found out that in his background that he had done tutoring, that he actually had interested. We could plausibly sell that he wanted to be a math professor.
Yeah. Which
is rare within the math world. So even when you think like, I have no outs. I have to do this, even if it's oversubscribed. We can work with you and make it contrarian.
Yes, that's I think the biggest thing to remember. And we also know in which programs you're locked in once you get in, and in which programs you have a lot of flexibility.
Right. We wouldn't recommend you to.
Ultimately, this is a top 3 decision you're making that will shape potentially the rest of your life, and we're there to guide you, make it easier, but also listen to your feedback, and if you're not comfortable doing with something, we'll help you in every single way that we can. So having said that, we have some options here that you can contact us if you're tired of getting emails from me. You can contact any of these 3 emails, but we already have a couple of questions, so please, if you have some accounts, if your Gmail is linked to your YouTube. We see a couple questions here in the chat. Vipul says, their son's in 9th grade. Is it too early to start looking? It might be too early to start saying, I'm going to Harvard.
Right.
But it's not too early. We'll help with the school list. If it's certain things you're interested in, if it's a certain major, if it's a certain location, certain school size, certain city, whatever, those are things you're going to know in your junior year.
Right. We don't have to make a school list right now.
Right. But we do have to find an interest.
Yes.
And that is something that we can start building. If you have 3 summers of doing things that are relevant to you, that's an amazing candidate. That's a fantastic candidate. You'll have practice writing your essays and things like that as well. So I think another good question here. This is an Ivy League presentation. What about the top 25 schools? Because we obviously, do the same principles apply for top 25?
They do. They absolutely do. They're all competitive. Whether it's the top UC schools, like I mentioned, Caltech and MIT, but Duke, Chicago. They're all. And then further down, Georgetown, Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
Michigan, the top state schools. Some people they're known as the public Ivies. Yes, they're all different in their way, and they need, depending on what you want to study, they need special handling.
And that's where we come in.
Right, that's where we come in. So, okay, you want to go to Michigan? Okay, so
I'll remind you the story. Well, I guess like the case we had that's actually not in the presentation is we had a student come to us, a potential transfer student, and we told him that certain programs where he wanted to end up had like a nonprofit program in business because he was interested in business. But what does that mean, right? So we found certain programs like in the top 25 which had nonprofit focus, and that way you can create a narrative for those top 25 schools that you'd be interested in. How do you determine the level of subscription of majors at a given school? See what majors are good target majors. A lot of data.
Yeah, we have thousands of data points. So these classes, these universities are trying to build a balanced class. Stanford very famously says that they could fill its class 6 to 7 times over with Asian students with perfect grades who all want to be doctors.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen. Okay, they have caps on the non-UC schools and non-Caltech schools all have caps on what they want the class to look like ultimately. So let's say, okay, we want no more than 20% to 22% Asians, or 23% of this group, 20, and then they'll have different breakdowns, and then those marching orders are given to the admissions officers. And in the end, when the class is put together, it will look like this.
Yeah.
They anyone who's interested to go deeper in the subject, I strongly recommend you look at the Harvard case that was recently decided in favor of Harvard, that said that Harvard has the right to discriminate on or to allow admissions on any grounds.
Yeah.
But outside of the UC system and Caltech, like I said, who are their own special beasts, they all do this. So we have people, Christian, that we have people, even if they understand that they want to study that in the end, but they we get them in through another path, and once they have leeway to choose, they'll go down their path. But we're just trying to optimize their chances of getting in.
Right. So this is a good question. You know, I'm sure there's certain programs like this, but between Barnard and Columbia, right? Like if you
that is an interesting beast. Barnard, yes, Barnard is an easy way to get in Columbia, but it is not Columbia. Many Barnard alumni say they went to Columbia. That is false.
Yeah.
Okay, they went to Barnard.
Yeah, and so, you know, is it good? It's a good school.
Yeah, and if you could tell people you went to Columbia, that's fine, but you didn't. You went the Seven Sisters is interesting. So applying to say Radcliffe is different from Barnard, which is different from some of these other schools. Like if you go to Harvard, you're not going to Radcliffe, you're going to Harvard.
Yeah.
If you go to Barnard, you're going to Barnard, you're not going to Columbia. That's a very, very, very distinct, which a lot of Barnard alums would unethically do not make that distinction. But a lot of employers will make that distinction.
Yes, that's a very important point. Ultimately, employment. Obviously, if you're a fantastic college student,
it's not going to matter, right?
Yeah. Well, our charges there, everything is available on our site. We have I think it even is in the description below. Maybe I can post it here in the chat. If you come to us as a senior, we always strategize everything for seniors as an application package. Not strategize, I apologize, structure. So that's per school basis. You want us to help you with 5 schools? All right, we'll help you with 5 schools as a senior. When you come to us as an underclassman, it's you have a giant pre-application workflow. We will spend hours and hours with you, checking in every month, setting you timelines, deadlines for certain things that we will present to you, and the student needs to get done, whether that's getting 3 or 4 options for the summer. Here's a list. We'll give you templates for how to write letters to these things. We check in with you on a bi-weekly basis if you're a junior. Sophomores, obviously, it's already a couple years out, but those packages start at $29.50 and $39.50 respectively, and we pride ourselves on being cost effective. We do not have former admissions officers working with students. We have Ivy League graduates, people that actually got into the schools that we're trying to get your son or daughter into. There is some caveats with hiring former admissions officers. You have to pay a premium.
Yeah, several X. For anyone who's interested, my job as in sales is to essentially communicate 2 things. First is, do I need the service? And if I do need the service, do I need you to sell me the service? There are many other companies that could do this. So it's 2 questions that we're asking. So when it comes to charges, you'll and if you do survey the landscape, you'll see that we are very reasonably, very, very competitively priced. And we also break down our. We also have, we're smaller than a lot of our other shops, and we're a lot more intimate. For example, every student and every parent has my personal phone number. I
think that actually ties into Greg's question, which is how do you assign a student with a consultant? interested, you talk to us, you end up signing a contract and submitting the invoice. We send you a questionnaire. It's very detailed. We need to know the student, and the student will prepare some answers. It doesn't have to be a crazy essay format. We get on the phone. Keith is on the phone, and we have also on our website. You see our team of consultants. We have specialists. We have a consultant who's very experienced in BSMD. Got into some of the top BSMD, meaning medicine focused programs in the country. We just had a sophomore student sign up with us, BSMD. That's a pairing. You talk. If there's ever any problems, right, for whatever reason, I mean, things happen. You have Keith's personal number. You say, Keith, this isn't working out. We have a conversation. We repair you. That's never a problem. We've got a small team, and we're very proud of our work. So that is not something that we anticipate happening, but we try to link people up also based on personality. Some students are a bit more, I don't know if shy is the right word, but just introverted. They don't need someone who's hounding them all the time. They need to be trusted with their work. So we do have a team on our page. We're very happy with a new hire, Martin Carlino. You can see him on our page. He swept the Ivy League.
Yep.
He got into every single Ivy League school. So
he's the unicorn that we tell that doesn't exist. He works for us now.
So very specialized question. If this is the last question, everybody, we'll sign off after this. But do let us know if you have any more. Daughter's very interested in theater for her top extracurricular. She participates in local theater programs. How do you differentiate or shine? She's a rising 9th grader. So,
okay, let me take this one.
Sure.
So a lot of these, first of all, theater for a South Asian student is very, very, very contrarian.
Which is good. It's a good thing.
Which is very, very good. So she's already differentiating herself by participating in this EC and making it her principal angular EC. That this is what she does. Almost all the big three for East and South Asian students are STEM / pre-med,
right,
computer science, and finance. So something as contrarian as different as, say, theater or Eastern Slavic languages or some of these other options are already angular. With this student specifically, I would have her study, depending on where you lived. I would have her try to study with either theater. I mean, and I know a little bit about this. My daughter goes to one of the premier performing arts high schools in the country, and so we know that like people in the theater, like they actually are desired to get, even if it's for simple like labor, like building sets on a theater. These things that you can actually be far more involved in, not just acting, but behind the scenes, writing, things along those lines that show a deep love of, I hope, of theater.
Yeah. And
we can pair her, we can angle her into those schools with probably maybe a dual major if that's her passion later on. But that is she's already angular, but we can help her, work with her to get opportunities in that are more angular.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be the last question. If there's still a lot of you with us, but if you have any more questions, you want to, the best way, what you do if this is something of interest, you want to get started working with us. We're open. The January 1st deadline has passed, so a lot of our seniors now are awaiting, responses from universities. We just onboarded a fantastic consultant, graduate of Harvard and Oxford. We have fantastic team that we're working with every day, and if you want to get in touch, this is how you do it. You can respond to the original webinar email that you got. Once we sign off, feel free to drop us a note. This is who I am. This is what year we're in high school. This is our interest. How would you help us?
Or if you missed part of it, you can
you can
see the beginning.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, this is also going to be uploaded. So we're signing off for now. We'll probably be back in a couple of weeks with maybe something more specialized, something more finance or medicine related. That might be more appealing to some of you.
This is supposed to be the first of a series, and I really appreciate everyone coming out and asking good questions. And if you don't get the answers if you want more depth, please reach out.
Yeah,
we'll set something up.
Yeah, if there's something we missed that's relevant to you in any way, do
not.
reach out. But I hope we didn't miss anything. And well, thank you for joining us this afternoon or morning. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.